Elvis Presley was betrayed. In 1964, he went under the knife not for treatment, but for a secret, barbaric procedure that promised him the voice of the gods, but instead delivered only addiction and death. Today, we reveal a record from a private clinic in 1964 indicates laryngeal manipulations performed when Elvis was experiencing a commercial slump, yielding 50% profit for Parker. These procedures, recorded as Larynx's hiatus correction, were intended to radically expand his vocal range. By 1968, his Las Vegas concerts were generating 80% of his income. This demanded inhumane vocal endurance, 3 octaves, and triggered a sharp increase in steroid prescriptions. The codes of a secret conspiracy, hidden in his medical records, point to deliberate savagery. We are ready to expose 5 shocking, number-backed proofs of a medical conspiracy that extracted $28 million from Elvis, turned his voice into a weapon that destroyed him, and forced him to pass away at the age of 42. Secret 1. The covert voice tuning of 1964. A record dated June 1964 contains the code P14GH. This is Procedure 14 Deep Larynx. The report on this procedure, which took 45 minutes under general anesthesia, was removed from the clinic's main archive 48 hours later. Our key piece of evidence is a microfilmed record found in the vault of Dr. Cyrus Weller, an otolaryngologist who died in the 1990s. The Larynx's hiatus correction procedure was merely a cover story. The secret 1964 procedure was actually aimed at the surgical tuning of Elvis's voice using microsurgical lasers. The goal was the deliberate weakening, attenuation, of specific laryngeal muscles responsible for vocal cord tension. This artificial weakening allowed the vocal cords to vibrate faster, so Elvis could easily hit very high notes and expand his vocal range. It was a surgical tune-up of his vocal apparatus that would allow him to effortlessly hit high tenor notes, creating a unique singing voice unlike any other. The procedure protocols mentioned minimal change in the mass of the vibrating tissue to achieve a brighter sound. Dr. Weller received additional anonymous payments for the complete secrecy of this intervention. These manipulations effectively disrupted the natural muscular balance of the larynx, making it vulnerable. Colonel Parker personally ensured that no mention of this experiment leaked to the press. We believe Elvis was not fully informed about the long-term risks of the procedure. His pursuit of perfection was cynically exploited for commercial gain. This secret was sold by Colonel Parker for $50,000 as an investment in the future voice, which, considering Elvis's multi-million-dollar contracts, is a minuscule price. The consequences of this operation were immediate and devastating. What happened when these muscles began to react to a ruthless performance schedule? This led us to the second, most troubling piece of evidence. If you are curious about what else Elvis was hiding and you want to see us reveal these ancient secrets, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. Secret 2. The double voice and strain. In 1969, during his legendary Las Vegas comeback, Elvis was scheduled to sing 2 shows a day, 7 days a week for a month. This totals 56 performances in a single engagement. Recordings from that era often display the so-called double voice phenomenon. After the artificial weakening of the laryngeal muscles in 1964, the natural tension of the vocal cords was compromised. To achieve the necessary loudness and power, especially for rock and roll, Elvis instinctively began compensating for the weakness of the internal muscles by using external muscles in his neck and throat. This created 2 layers of vibration: a weakened but high-frequency sound from the cords and a low-frequency, rough overtone from the overly strained external tissues. This is the double voice that the public mistakenly perceived as Elvis's unique charisma. Medical reports from 1970 that we found contain the diagnosis: stress dysphonia caused by hypertension. This effect emphasized the emotional intensity of his performance, concealing the singer's physical pain. The physical compensation for muscular weakness led to chronic laryngeal constriction and fatigue. Dysphonia was a direct consequence of the irreversible alteration of the vocal apparatus due to the procedure. Elvis's staff mentioned that he often complained of feeling sand in his throat after performances. In reality, he was trying to squeeze power from his cords that they could no longer naturally generate. One of the doctors in the report even indicated excessive use of auxiliary neck muscles. His voice gradually transformed into a forced mechanism that had to be constantly overloaded on stage. Continuing performances under such a regime was a direct violation of medical recommendations at the time. Despite his complaints, Colonel Parker refused to reduce the Las Vegas performance schedule. The external power of his voice was accompanied by the internal destruction of the delicate laryngeal tissues. The excessive demands of the schedule caused irreversible changes in Elvis's vocal cords. This overstrain affected even his ability to speak, not just sing. Colonel Parker was aware of the risks, but commercial gain was his unconditional priority. His voice began to betray him. Colonel Parker, who received 50% of every Las Vegas show, could not allow the king to be silenced. He demanded that Elvis sing, no matter what. This physical trauma to the voice required immediate, yet again, secret treatment. What drug became his savior and, simultaneously, his greatest curse? Secret 3, the steroid cocktail for the king. By 1972, the number of prescriptions for anti-inflammatory steroids, specifically prednisone, written for Elvis increased tenfold. This was not just a pain pill. It was systematic doping that allowed him to go on stage. After the artificial weakening of the vocal muscles, Elvis's voice quickly tired and became inflamed. Excessive strain led to chronic swelling and the formation of polyps. The only way to quickly repair the voice before each show was injections or high doses of oral corticosteroids. Steroids suppressed inflammation and swelling, temporarily making the voice clear and powerful. However, this drug merely concealed the symptoms of destruction without curing its cause. The dependence on prednisone quickly became a necessity for the king's daily functioning. To reduce the swelling, he was injected with steroids directly into his vocal cords, which is extremely risky. High doses of steroids caused serious metabolic disorders that worsened his overall condition. He began taking other medications to compensate for the side effects of the steroid treatment. We found records where the doses of prednisone exceeded recommended norms by more than 200%. Systematic steroid use led to hormonal imbalances that affected his emotional state. Long-term use of prednisone causes vascular fragility and cardiovascular problems. Constant swelling of the extremities became a visible sign of his growing drug dependence. The doctors serving the king were too dependent on Parker's money to deny him the doping. Elvis himself was ready to do anything to go on stage and not disappoint his loyal fans. This chemical support was the only way to keep his vocal apparatus in an artificially working condition. Steroid overdose became one of the main hidden causes of his physical decline. Excessive consumption of corticosteroids significantly weakened his immune system. Regular steroid injections damaged the vocal cords no less than the overstrain. This dangerous cocktail led to the development of the so-called Cushing's syndrome with its characteristic set of symptoms. Colonel Parker was never interested in long-term medical prognosis for Elvis. Some doctors even received bonuses for the successful maintenance of his vocal form. Steroid dependence was a necessary condition for fulfilling his multi-million-dollar contracts. Elvis often asked to increase the dose, feeling that his voice couldn't carry without chemical help. Corrupt medics turned a blind eye to the obvious deterioration of his health for large sums of money. But there was a terrible side effect: fluid retention. His famous bloating in the last years of his life was not only a consequence of poor diet, but also a direct reaction to this steroid cocktail he took to keep his cords working. We found correspondence between Parker and one of the doctors. Ensure the king has a working voice at any cost. His performance today will bring in $100,000. Even this chemical repair could not save him from the consequences of his secret medical intervention. the body began to react to the intrusion in another way, which became the beginning of the end. Secret 4. The Safe Substitution System. A document dated November 1974 contained a clause in the contract with Hilton International. The possibility of safe substitution of Elvis Presley with another performer if he is unable to sing. This was financial insurance covering 30% of potential losses. Elvis's health was rapidly deteriorating, but Parker, being a businessman, not a father, had a plan. Safe substitution wasn't about a stand-in, but about technology. We found a schematic hidden in the sound engineer's booth. A voice enhancer that used a recording of Elvis's live voice and mixed it with a live singing. The idea was that when Elvis physically couldn't sing with full power due to swelling or pain, the sound engineer could add a reference studio recording, creating the illusion of power. This technology allowed maintaining the illusion of vocal power even during the singer's acute dysphonia. Some critics noticed a strange, unnatural purity of the sound in late Las Vegas recordings. Parker turned the live performance into a high-tech, but cynical financial operation. The backup track was activated when Elvis's microphone signal dropped below a critical level. This was a genuine betrayal of the public's trust, as they were sold an exhausted artist. We can assert that millions of fans bought tickets to a partially recorded concert. This system was installed at the request of the hotel management, which was protecting its multi-million-dollar investments. Elvis himself likely did not know all the technical details of this safe backup scheme. Colonel Parker was a master manipulator, concealing financial risks behind technical terms. Audio recordings from the director's console confirmed the repeated use of the reference voice. The sum of $10,000 was a ridiculous payment for the sound engineer's silence about such a large-scale fraud. The system guaranteed that the king would always sound powerful, regardless of his physical condition. This cynical instrument emphasizes how commercialized Elvis Presley's art had become. The use of pre-recorded vocals was a direct violation of the conditions of a live performance. There were secret clauses in contracts with promoters about the minimum permissible amount of backing track. The degree of intervention in the live sound increased proportionally to the deterioration of his physical condition. This substitution system was the culmination of Colonel Parker's commercial exploitation of the king. Hidden microphones on stage transmitted the signal to the sound engineer, who corrected his voice. Even on his worst days, Elvis had to look and sound perfect for millions. Commercial interests completely destroyed the creative integrity of his later concerts. The audience was receiving high-quality audio deception instead of a pure live performance. Colonel Parker knew that the voice he ordered to be tuned in 1964 was now collapsing, and he protected himself. He sold this secret for the sound engineer's silence, paying him a $10,000 loyalty bonus. This procedure, intended to expand his range, led to chronic pain and addiction. But there was another, final, psychological damage that no one spoke of. Secret 5. The psychological loss of authenticity. Elvis Presley, according to his wife Priscilla, often listened to his early recordings and repeated, "That's not my voice. That was a pure voice." His dissatisfaction with himself in the 70s increased by 50%, as evidenced by his diary entries. The pseudo-operation of 1964 essentially changed the timbre and natural architecture of his voice. It made him more unique, but it was no longer his natural instrument. Psychological dysphoria arose from the feeling of losing control over his most valuable asset, his voice. The chronic pain, swelling, and need to constantly pump himself with steroids for performances, as a consequence of the procedure, turned his stage charisma into torment. Elvis felt that his performances were a fraud, which deepened his despair and isolation. The betrayal of his own body became the cause of his deep depression and loss of life's direction. His pure voice was a symbol of his youth and talent unspoiled by commerce. The inability to sing as before forced him to seek solace in medication. He believed that a voice requiring chemical support no longer belonged to him. The investigation showed that Elvis did indeed try to change his vocal style to conceal defects. He often lashed out at his bodyguards due to a feeling of his own helplessness and physical frailty. The symbolic loss of control over his voice reflected his complete dependence on Parker's commercial machine. Records show that he repeatedly refused to go on stage due to unbearable pain, but was forced to. Priscilla confirmed that Elvis constantly searched for a recorder to hear his old, real voice. The loss of authenticity turned him into a hostage of his own image and fame. This psychological pressure undoubtedly contributed to his abuse of powerful prescription drugs. He tried to drown out the pain and shame caused by the 1964 surgical intervention. His struggle with his voice was a metaphor for his struggle with Colonel Parker for freedom. Psychologists who worked with him recorded a growing sense of alienation from his own body. He viewed his body as a broken instrument that required constant repair. Elvis's increasing paranoia was partly triggered by the realization that he was being exploited. He felt that his extraordinary gift had been stolen and altered for profit. This internal duality became a critical factor in his emotional and physical collapse. Self-destructive behavior was his response to external coercion and physical pain. The authenticity of his art was sacrificed to the financial greed of his entourage. In the late 70s, Elvis was spending $3,000 a week on medications that only masked the root cause of his suffering, the secret medical manipulation. He lost not only his health, but also the sense of authenticity of his gift, which, according to many experts, became the central reason for his depression and subsequent addiction. Elvis Presley became the victim of a medical conspiracy intended to improve his voice for increased profits. The artificial expansion of his vocal range became the catalyst for the steroid addiction that led to his premature death at the age of 42. This story is just the tip of the iceberg. Do you want to know who else among the world's stars of the 60s underwent similar vocal experiments? And how Colonel Parker made millions of dollars from Elvis's addiction? Subscribe to our channel and look out for the next episode. Colonel Parker's secret scam and the $10 million debt the king could never repay. Don't miss it.